Hi, I'm Chris Thomas, here to tell you what's new in the Authentic series for 2017 and explain our new aged process in the custom shop. Here's Fred Green and Jeff Allen.
I'm Fred Green with Martin Guitar. I'm sitting here with Jeff Allen, Director of Custom Shop. And today we want to talk to you about something we're really doing. It's a little special, something we've never done before at Martin Guitar. It's the first attempt for us. And it's a little bit controversial in some cases with some people. We know we're going to ruffle some feathers with this particular guitar. And that is a good thing. I'm all right with that. Now, we see a lot of new guitars every day. You and I, we get to play a lot of new guitars.
Yes.
I'm sitting here
Yes.
right now with our 00030 Authentic, which we'll be introducing for 2017. And new guitars have a real particular feel. Even though this guitar is a replica of a guitar from 1919,
Yes.
right? It still feels like a new guitar.
Because it is a new guitar.
Well, that's a great point. It is a new guitar, so we're not fooling anybody
Not trying to
with this
fool
particular
anyone.
piece. Now, old guitars have a way different feel to them.
Absolutely.
And even when we bring artists into the factory, when we show them a lot of new guitars, they're always looking forward to going out into the museum, because as soon as they see that old guitar that's been played and it's been loved, it sort of has a different vibe and a different mojo. The key here with the two guitars we're holding today is that they're both new guitars.
They're both new.
Now, this is a 1937 D28 Authentic.
Yes, it is. It started out that way.
It started out that way, but for the first time, we're going to be offering an aged process in 2017 on this particular guitar, on the D28 1937. And how many of these do you plan on doing this year?
50.
Just 50.
Just 50, because they're going to be hand done. So think about that. They're already, all Authentics are handmade,
Right.
hide glue. So these are no different, but we're going to hand age these. And only a
Okay.
couple people are going to do that.
Now, I want to make this really clear. We're not talking about just beating up guitars, but
No.
we've had this conversation a lot between the two of us, which is some people get really upset and say, what are you doing? You're just beating up a new guitar. And I'd rather break it in myself and take the time to do that, and, which is fantastic. And it's absolutely not. That's how I have a lot of my guitars.
Absolutely.
But you know, I'm getting up there in age now. I don't have 40 years to play a guitar to get it to look like this.
No.
And so I love that vibe that you're getting off this when you feel it and you play it. And you're not just beating a guitar up. I want to make this really clear.
No.
We're not seeing pictures of Jeff just walking through the factory, dragging a guitar behind him and hitting it with chains
No.
and hammers.
No,
It's
the process
really
is
specific.
slow. It's slow, it's tedious, it's difficult, but it's fun. Because what you're really doing when you, 30 years from now, 50 years from now, this guitar may look like this. And I think a lot of people want that, but they don't have the time, like you say.
Well, that's a great point.
They like the way it feels. If you feel the edges and the corners of an older guitar, it's smooth and the corners are rounded over. The fingerboard edges are really rounded over and not sharp, because all the handling and the playing softens up all those
Correct.
edges, right?
Exactly. Now, so the first thing I'm noticing when I see it is how much different the finish looks on this particular guitar, obviously from this new guitar here. So what exactly did you do here? Because I can see the tiny cracks, like old lacquer cracks in this particular guitar, and obviously the color is much different. Is this the same lacquer? It's not the same lacquer.
It is not. So this formulation is slightly different than what we are putting on the Authentics today.
Okay.
It's thinner and
How much thinner?
half.
Half. It's half.
Half
This
the
is
mils
half of this.
what's on the, and this is already a thin lacquer.
Right, because these are already running somewhere, what,
5,
So that you're running 2.5 mils
3.
of lacquer, maybe 3.
around 3. And that because we noticed in the old guitar, so this guitar actually is emulating a guitar we have in our storage or in our museum.
In the museum. So this
Yeah.
is modeled after a particular guitar in the
The
museum.
color, the color that the lacquer turns, notice how orange this is compared to that one.
Yeah, well,
That's
sure.
that's very normal for lacquer.
Torfied top.
Torfied top, torfied braces. I mean, this is basically a 1937 D28 Authentic
But with the age
frame,
process.
with just the aging done to it after it's produced. After the instrument's finished,
All right.
we take and go through the process.
So let me point out a couple features here and give you a chance to talk about tuning machines. Those definitely do not look like new tuning machines.
No, these are Waverleys though. These are the Waverleys that we put on our Authentics. So this is the tuner that we normally use. We worked with Waverly. Those guys are wonderful, and we came up with a process to age these. We handed them a set of old tuners off of an OD28 and said,
Okay.
get them as close to this as you can possibly get them.
So they came up with a process to make them look like
Yes,
that.
they did. We're not going to do that in-house.
Right.
They're doing that for
And I
us.
noticed the little ding dents and the little things around the back where the finishes wore off at the back of the peg head, like somebody were laying the guitar up against the wall over 50, 60 years of
Yeah,
love.
the donor guitar, or the original guitar that we used as I guess as the main one to copy from. We used everything that we could to try to copy that, and we noticed that hey, you can't copy just by sanding or filing off the finish. That to really make it look worn, it's a softer approach. You can't. In other words, a guitar that gets dented here, that's over time from sitting
Right.
against the wall, and eventually that wears off. If I just take something and sand that, yes, I'll go through the finish, but it will not look natural.
Got it.
So the time that it takes to wear through these finishes, you notice everywhere there's wear, like here,
Yeah.
back of the neck, the back of the body, is basically just
Turn that
emulating the other guitar.
Yeah, you see that little bit of wear right there, just like a
Yes.
little belt buckle rash that you get right
We
there.
noticed in this location, you see a lot more wear. In fact, you see the finish is usually
That-
gone.
You know, lots of times you see people when they try to emulate or do these guitars, and you've seen other people do aged or relic guitars. The electric guitar market's fantastic. I mean, they really know, they've got it down really well.
They do.
But on the acoustic side, not so good.
Primarily
because
doing it.
Well, it's
Very
really,
few.
it's much hard. It's really hard to do.
It
I've
is.
talked to some of the guys. I know
It is.
you and I have both worked for other companies.
Yes.
Who do these processes, and we know the guys who do them.
Correct.
And a lot of times they stay away from acoustic guitars because it is just so much more difficult to do than an electric guitar. And what I really noticed, what you really captured here, it doesn't look forced. It doesn't look like a fraud. And that's what sometimes you would get into with some of these other guitars. And of course, listen, if you've got a guitar in a guitar company that wasn't started until 1975, showing an old guitar that looks like this sort of
No, you're trying to emulate something that doesn't really exist.
it doesn't make sense. As we were joking around the other day, it's sort of like making a rat rod out of a Tesla.
Right.
It doesn't
Doesn't work.
mentally.
work.
Mentally, it doesn't work.
No.
So I'm noticing the color. I also noticed there's wear on the fingerboard.
Yeah, so one of the things we noticed as we took the strings off and really looked inside the body and down the fingerboard is most older guitars that were built in the 30s and 40s that were
Right.
played a lot have a lot of wear on the fingerboard. You may not be able to pick it up on the camera, but if you pull the strings aside, we went to every detail. I mean, we copied everything we could copy. There's a lot of string wear in the fingerboard.
Yeah, I see the yellow along the nut and along the
Pins,
saddle and the
saddle.
pins. And one of the most interesting pieces is that I thought was the hardest part to capture here was the pick guard. See, these old pick guards, they were all cellulose, right? Cellulose, whatever.
Yeah.
They would sort of shrink down over a particular
that
time.
material
And
is
that
not
was
stable.
always, yeah, it's not. And how did you capture that? Because it's all sunken. I mean, I see so many old guitars from our museum, and obviously from our custom repair, where everybody out there sends us guitars to fix and work on. So we see some great old pieces.
Oh, we get to see some really nice
And
guitars.
that pickguard piece of it is one of the hardest things to emulate and get right.
It was.
How did you do that?
So the pick guard, in a way, it was by accident. We kept seeing the old guitars. People would send in their 30-something D28s for repair, and we would notice the pick guards look shrunk back from the original finish. You know, those pick guards are under the finish
Right.
originally. So as the pick guard shrinks, you start to see a line of lacquer, a ridge of lacquer where the pick guard has shrunk back away from the lacquer. And then the lacquer gets worn off the pick guard through years of playing. So you see this little edge, and the pick guard's typically rounded over and curled up on the edges. So what we decided to do was actually take an old D28 and make a mold of the pick guard, and then mold the new pick guards into
Right.
that same shape.
Right.
Instead of trying to age the pick guard, it's just basically molded into the
So
shape.
you heat that guard up.
We heat it up and put it in a mold.
Oh, that's fantastic. That looks awesome. And I noticed how round and soft the bridge is from, like, if you were resting your hand on the guitar.
That's one of the things you notice when you first pick up a new guitar. All the edges feel sharper.
Yeah, well,
everywhere.
Well, with today's machining processes, you're using CNC machines, and they're all so precise. And back in the old days, obviously everything was done by hand.
Done by hand.
So guys would sit there and they might spend a little extra time sort of sanding on something when they're talking to the guy next to them on the bench.
Yeah.
Right. So
They
some
did.
of the guitars would be really rounded over,
Yeah.
and some of the guitars would not be
Or not.
quite as round. But over time, as you're playing it, your hand just sort of naturally wears the edges off
On
of
this,
everything.
and the wear is different. So the wear on this side of the bridge is different than the wear on this end. This end gets worn a lot from your fingernail. A lot of guys rest their fingernail in this area or their finger, and the pick hits that.
Right.
So it wears this corner differently than this. This is mostly your hand.
Right, palm.
So, and it's a lot softer.
Right.
So if you were to compare this bridge to a brand new D28 Authentic, it would feel slightly different.
Gotcha.
Slightly smooth. Just
That-
like the binding around the edges.
That's very cool. And last, one of the things I really want to point out here is when we were trying to sort of do this and play around with it a little bit, one of the things that would constantly throw our eye off was the fact that we get the outside of the guitar looking really, really old, and you look inside the guitar, and all the braces were snow white and beautiful, like they were
Immediately.
just put in that day. And that really created some kind of conflict in your brain
it's a
that something
giveaway.
it was a total giveaway. So you had to get in there and age the inside of the guitar like an old guitar, because we see them, like I said, we see them come back in custom repair, and we see them in the museum, and they're always full of dust bunnies and all kinds of weird things in there. you would,
You won't, no, tell me what you'll find. isn't
yeah,
it?
we found a lot of weird things inside of inside of
We have.
guitars, but you were able to capture that same look on the inside.
And that was actually one of the bigger challenges, I think, because we were dealing with natural wood that's uncoated. The rest of the guitar has lacquer, so you're really treating the lacquer. You're
Correct.
aging the lacquer. Except where you expose the wood, it's still covered. Internally, anything you do to the inside of the guitar can cause problems. We had to be careful how we age the inside. So the inside of the guitar is aged, and it's hard to tell here, but you'll see some close-up photos on the Martin website. But internally, we tried to copy that as much as we could. And it does look old inside. If you were to look inside this guitar versus that one,
One of the key giveaways I can see is where the X brace crosses right here, there's a little cloth gun patch,
Yeah, there's a patch.
that we put in there. And you've even made that dirty and black like they get, because they're white when we first put them in.
they are. And we noticed that every old guitar that we looked at had that patch was really dark, darker than most of the braces.
Sure.
And we don't know why that picks up
Sweat.
dirt and sweat more than the rest of the guitar, but it does, so we made sure we copy that. We want people to look inside and not say, hey, that's a brand new guitar. We want people to look at it. And the only way they know the difference would be to look at the head block and see the serial number
Right.
and know that it's a new Authentic.
Right. That's incredible. So we're bringing 50
50.
for the whole year. You're gonna have to get your order in early, talk to your dealer. We'll be sort of setting up a production
Yes.
line. So maybe in the future we'll be able to do more. But for this
absolutely.
year, we're doing 50 1937
Yeah.
D28s. If you have any interest out there, contact your Martin dealer ASAP. Get your name on the list, and hopefully you're one of the lucky 50 people in the world who will get one of these first aged Martin guitars. Awesome. Great job, man.
Thank
Looks
you.
cool.
It was fun. It was fun.
Thank you.